Hi there, and welcome to this video about using breakpoints with the debugger. Now, so far we've looked at using the debugger and working our way through programs line by line, watching variables, etc. But what happens when we have a program that's quite large? Now, in that situation, we don't really want to be working our way through a program that could be hundreds of lines long, line by line, particularly when we might have loops and things within that program that actually mean that we're running it many more times than those lines. So let's take an example here. I've got a program here which is a Space Invaders app that I'm working on, and if I scroll down to the bottom here, we can see I've got hundreds of lines here. I've got down to getting on for 700 lines or thereabouts. Now I know that this program works, and I've got lots of different loops in there that are populating arrays and all sorts of things. Now, that's all very well, but if I now want to test a particular part of my program, I don't really want to be going through line by line. So in this situation, let's say I've got a particular part of my program that I'd like to run or check once I've fired a bullet. Okay, so once my my little shooter character is actually fired, at that point I want my program to stop, if you like, so I can run through it then line by line. Now I know that down in my program towards the bottom here I have a section or a function called release and move bullet, and within there I've got this section here which is to do with once I'm cleared to fire, I've checked that I'm okay to do so, and then I can put in this breakpoint. Now, breakpoint is actually a function, and the idea of breakpoint is that it actually just stops the execution of the program at that point within the debugger and allows you to run through it line by line. So just standard looking sort of function here with the name of the function in did well there, let's move that back. So the name of the function in capitals and then 2 brackets afterwards. Now let's just see that in action. So if I just save my source and check, okay, and I play the app, and what I'm going to do is run it with the debugger. Okay, now at this point, okay, I've got my app over here, okay, and it's waiting to start here. All right. So I've got my start function there ready to go. Now, as I say, I don't really want to run through it like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press a free run, which effectively allows my program to run normally until it reaches a breakpoint. Okay, so I'm going to click free run, and we can see it's now running my program here, loading images, etc. It says press any key to start, so I'm going to do that in a second. Now, the point that I'm trying to get to is where I've fired a bullet. So all I'm going to do is press start, and then I'm going to press enter to fire a bullet. Okay, now at that point I have now fired my bullet. I pressed enter, and if I scroll down here we can see that breakpoint there is now highlighted. Okay, and if I wanted to I could be watching variables, and we can see we've got hundreds of variables going on here with all sorts of different arrays and things like that that have been populated, etc. Okay, and these are the variables within the function that I'm actually using at the moment, release and move bullet. Okay, so I've got that, and now if I wanted to, okay, I could move through my program or through that section of the app line by line, and gradually we'll be able to see different variables and things changing. Okay, so there's one example of using that. So when we've got a large program and we know we want to stop it at a particular point and then move on from there. So that's one example. Now another thing we can do with this is, if I just go back to my workspace, okay, I could say, well, if I've got an app like this one and I've got a loop that's running 100 times, well, in that situation I might want to jump into my loop, but rather than running it the full 100 times or whatever, or having to go through line by line 100 times, which would sort of be a bit inefficient. What I could do is do something like put something in here. Now I know my loop counter is doing this, so if I said if loop counter, so I'll just copy that and paste, is equal to, let's say, 98. Now at that point I could do a breakpoint, and this would be a temporary measure just for allow me to debug, you know, just towards the end of the loop. So if I was to run this now, so save source and check, okay, and run it, and then run it with the debugger. Okay, and again I'm going to do a free run. Okay, and at this point now I am, well, let's just check. Let's move over and have a check on my variables. So I should see that loop counter is now on 98. Yep, and that's my program as it stands. So I could now carry on running the different lines. We can see the random running total is got quite large because it's been running quite a few times, and I can run through the final stages of my loop. So there's two examples of how to use your breakpoint to control the debugger so that you're not wasting time running through line by line, you know, tediously getting to the point where you need to in your program.